Welcome to the Treasury Talk podcast, dedicated to demystifying public school finance in the state of Ohio. Before we dive into today's topic, we always start by grounding our conversation in the district's purpose by reading the district mission. The mission of the Kettering City Schools, in partnership with the family and community, is to guarantee a superior educational experience for all students by providing a positive and innovative learning environment while responsibly utilizing our resources. I'm your host, Justin Blevins, the Treasurer and Chief Financial Officer for Kettering City School District. My primary role is to ensure the responsible management of every taxpayer dollar to support our district mission. This podcast series is designed to peel back the layers of school funding, budgeting, and financial planning, giving you, our community stakeholders, transparent access to where your money goes and how those funds directly support the goals and operations of our district, featuring guests who impact these decisions. We have a really important conversation lined up for today. We'll be talking about the future. The title of today's episode is Right Sizing and the Future. And to help us unpack exactly what that means for our district, we're joined by board member Bill Lautar. Bill has been deeply involved in the strategic planning of our district's facilities and finances, and I'm excited to pick his brain today. Bill, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
For our listeners, Mr. Lautar provides governance as a member of the board, helps set policy, approves budgets, and represents the district's vision to the community. Bill, would you like to give a brief summary of your service to the district?
Sure. I go back a number of years. I started as a teacher and coach at the old Indian Riffle Junior High School. From there, I was selected to serve as the assistant principal at Indian Riffle Junior High School. I then matriculated on to Fairmont High School, where I was the central unit supervisor, and finally ended my career for the last 22 years that I worked as the director of student services at the board office. I came back after having retired after a couple of years and helped the district by serving as an interim human resource director. I like to say I'm also a proud graduate of Fairmont East High School, and I've lived in Kettering for almost 70 years.
All right, thank you for that. Bill, when we talk about the master facilities plan, a word that comes up often is consolidation, or as we prefer to call it, right sizing. For some in the community, the idea of reducing the number of buildings can sound alarming, but looking at the history for Kettering City Schools, this isn't a new concept, is it?
No, Justin, strictly speaking, it isn't. If you look back to the 1960s, our district enrollment was at its absolute peak. We had a much larger student population and, consequently, we operated several more buildings than we do today. In fact, almost 11 more buildings than what we have today. Over the decades, as enrollment naturally shrank and stabilized, the district went through several moments of consolidation to match that reality. We're projected to remain relatively steady in enrollment moving forward, so right sizing is simply the responsible process of ensuring our physical footprint matches the actual number of students we serve today rather than the number that we served 50 years ago.
From a financial perspective, right sizing is critical for efficiency. Can you explain to our listeners how reducing the number of buildings through consolidation actually benefits the students in the classroom?
Well, it comes down to operational overhead. Every building we keep open has a fixed cost: utilities, administrative staff, custodial services, maintenance, and many more items. If we are operating more buildings than our enrollment requires, we are spending taxpayer money to heat and cool empty space. By consolidating into fewer, more efficient buildings, we reduce those fixed overhead costs. That financial savings can then be redirected away from paying electric bills and put directly into educational programs and student services.
Thanks for breaking that down for us. I do want to pivot now to a complex financial topic that looks at what we've been calling a phase 2 of the master facilities plan, where we look to address the elementary schools. We discussed in a previous episode, and that was episode 3 with Mrs. Kane, that the bond passed in 2002 is nearing its payoff date. How does the timing of that old debt retiring impact the potential financing for Phase 2 of the Master Facilities Project?
This is a crucial piece of the long-term financial puzzle. As we mentioned, the 2002 bond is scheduled to be paid off in the coming years. When that happens, the tax millage associated with that debt falls off the tax duplicate, meaning residents stop paying for it. The timing of Phase 2 is designed to align with that drop-off.
Exactly. So then effectively, we're looking at a replacement scenario. Can you break that down for the common listener on what that actually looks like?
Certainly. Think of it like a car payment. If you have a monthly car payment of $300 that ends in December, and you take out a new loan for a new car in January for that same $300, your household budget doesn't change. You aren't spending new money, you're just continuing an existing commitment. For the district, by timing Phase 2 correctly, any new debt could effectively replace the old 2002 bond debt. This would put the district in a situation where a bond issue for Phase 2 could result in no new tax increase, net tax increase for residents compared to what they are paying today. The goal is to stabilize the tax rate while modernizing the remaining facilities.
And I think that that's a vital distinction. It requires disciplined long-term planning to line those timelines up so the taxpayer doesn't see a spike in their tax rate, but rather a continuation of their current investment level. So Bill, we've talked about saving money by having fewer buildings, but what about the cost of running the new buildings? How does modern construction compare to running a building from the 1950s?
Well, that's a great question, and it's something that the board has looked at very closely. When you compare a school built in the 1950s to modern construction, it's really like night and day, especially when we talk about energy efficiency. Our older buildings are drafty, they leak heat in the winter and cool air in the warmer months. But with our new facilities, we are looking at completely sealed envelope with better insulation, fully integrated LED lighting, and modern, highly advanced HVAC systems. Because of all these advancements, the actual cost per square foot to operate a new building is significantly lower than what we spend keeping our aging facilities running. So, even though these new schools feature larger, modern learning spaces, our monthly utility bills and day-to-day maintenance costs drop dramatically. It's an upfront investment that pays the district back every single month in operational savings.
Before we wrap up, I want to dedicate a few moments to what we call our Finance Fundamentals Check-In. Understanding these core data points is essential for every stakeholder in our district. First, let's look at the funding ratio. The district's general fund budget relies on a mix of local property taxes and state aid. Local funding made up approximately 71% of total revenue in fiscal year 2025. This comes primarily from local property tax levies. State funding made up approximately 24% of total revenue in fiscal year 2025. This comes primarily through the state foundation formula. Total revenues for fiscal year 2025 general fund were just under $134 million. Second, our annual budget. Our general fund operating budget for fiscal year 2025 was just over $122 million. Of that total, 84% went toward people, the salaries and benefits of everyone who works in the district. Another 11% covered purchase services, which are things we have to pay outside companies or organizations for, like utilities or specialized student services. The remaining 5% went toward other everyday needs such as classroom supplies and materials. Third, the financial planning tool. Every public school district in Ohio is required to file a financial forecast. This isn't just a budget, it's a look ahead that details our revenue projections and expenditure assumptions for the next several years. This tool is fundamental to proactive financial management, ensuring the district avoids deficit spending and maintaining public accountability. We use it to project future stability and service needs, which directly informs the board's decisions on future funding requests. This document is publicly available on our website as well as on the Department of Education's site. Bill, Thank you again for sharing your perspective on the future of our facilities and the concept of right-sizing. What is one final takeaway or action item that you would recommend to our stakeholders as they engage with the district's financial information?
Justin, I'd like to say that we have a long history of right-sizing our district to minimize operational cost, to save the taxpayers. As we have pointed out, and the state of Ohio via the OFCC stated, we have too many old buildings for our student population. We have a great opportunity with old bond millage dropping off and the state's contribution. Phase 2 will allow us to get 4 new elementary buildings with no additional cost to homeowners or taxpayers. We would be fiscally irresponsible not to share this information.
Excellent. To our listeners, we hope this episode has provided valuable insight into school finance. Remember that transparency is a core pillar of the Treasurer's Office, and we encourage you to visit the district website at www.ketteringschools.org for the latest financial forecasts, audit reports, and budget details. Join us next time on Treasury Talk. Thank you for listening, and go Birds.
This podcast is produced by the Kettering City School District for informational and educational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official position of the Board of Education or the district. Any discussion of Ohio public school funding or district finances is general in nature. It should not be considered legal, financial, or tax advice. Listeners should consult official district communications or appropriate professionals for specific guidance. Information shared in this episode is accurate as of the date of the recording. Please note that details may change due to updates in law, policy, or guidance from the state of Ohio, including the Ohio Department of Education and Workforce. This podcast does not advocate for or against any ballot issue or candidate. This episode was recorded and produced by students in the Interactive Media program at the Kettering Fairmont Career Technology Center as part of their educational coursework. As a public school district, please be aware that certain communications may be subject to Ohio public record laws. Copyright 2026, Kettering City School District, all rights reserved.
To our listeners, we hope this episode has provided valuable insight into school finance. Remember that transparency is a core pillar of the Treasurer's Office, and we encourage you to visit the district website at www.ketteringschools.org for the latest financial forecasts, audit reports, and budget details. Join us next time on Treasury Talk. Thank you for listening, and go Birds.